Thanks for watching Halftime TV. This is Leon Bailey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hello, good evening, Halftime TV viewers and subscribers. Welcome to another episode, and we're here to do a full recap of the Jamaica versus Honduras game that took place just under 24 hours ago. Now, if you're new to the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I know I haven't been with you in a minute, but when the time requires, we have to come out and to share our bit. All right, so big shout out to everyone who's constantly supporting the Halftime TV channel and the Halftime TV movement. We are here and we will always be here, and the ratings show that. All right, we're at 25,000 subscribers and we will continue going from strength to strength. Okay, so to the loyal Halftime TV fans, don't worry, we have you covered. And for those who've been reaching out and who have been checking in, we appreciate the love and the support. So today we'll be doing our reaction to the Jamaica versus Honduras game. I think it was one of those games where the Reggae Boyz didn't necessarily need a win, but the fans who went out to the national stadium, they needed a win. And that's why they came out in their numbers. I think a lot of fans were left disappointed, but we'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. All right, big shout out to the sponsors, Pickling Shipping. Anything you need shipped into the island, they have you covered. And remember, folks, keep the conversation going in the comment section as soon as we're done with this one. Okay, so the fans from Mapen who reached out last night, big up on yourself. They were in the National Stadium live and direct, and they reached out just minutes after midnight to share their take on the game. I watched the game in full, and I must say there are quite a few talking points. We won't get to go through all of them today, obviously, but we picked out a handful that we think are worthy of our attention. All right, so first things first, not all that glitters is gold. All right, so what do I mean by this? Lots of times we see some high-profile players coming into the national setup, and we're intrigued, we're excited because we've seen these players on the highest level, and we expect that performance or those performances to matriculate in the national team or to transition easily to the national team. That's not always the case. And in saying this, I'm alluding specifically to Mason Holgate. Now, we've seen him in the English Premier League for quite a number of years now. I think he's on loan now from Everton, but he's an Everton player, and we know Everton has been playing in the English Premier League for quite some time. So it begs to reason that, hey, he's playing for Everton. Everton is a top club. He must be quality for the national team. I think, having seen Mason Holgate in that game last night, I think there's a lot of work to be done, especially with the Jamaican setup. It could be something with the chemistry of the team. We know sometimes some new players, they take a little bit of time to adjust to new setups. Maybe that's the case. But Mason Holgate, I think he's definitely not it, at least not based on what I saw last night. All right, we've seen him in the Prem. We know he's capable of playing some football, but last night was one of the performances that he definitely want to forget. I think if Honduras was putting their chances away, based on the chances that Mason Holgate in particular gave up, Jamaica should have been at least 3 down by half time. So again, that's my opinion, and I'm inviting you, the viewers and subscribers, to share what your thoughts are on that. Secondly, Jamaica had 0 shots in the first half, not even shots on target, 0 shots in the first half. Remember, we're playing on home soil. We expected the Reggae Boyz to come out swinging. We expected the Reggae Boyz to do a bit better, I must say. Watching the game, the team was flat. They didn't offer anything whatsoever going forward, especially in the first half. At one point, I even lost interest in the game because of how flat the Reggae Boyz were playing. Flat, passive, and it just left us, the fans, wanting. And I know the coach is relatively new with the team. He's still trying to get his ideas across to the players. But that first half performance from the Reggae Boyz is definitely one to forget. We saw defensive stability in that, in general, aside from that the number of Mason Holgate blunders, or it could be a case where, because the Honduras attackers weren't as good going forward, the Jamaican team looked a little bit better defensively. But nonetheless, I think nothing, no imagination whatsoever going forward. And that's definitely something that needs to be worked on. We still have to bear in mind the likes of Shamar Nicholson were absent. I won't mention Leon Bailey because obviously we haven't seen him back in the team for a minute. But Shamar Nicholson, one of the players who we'd expect to be in and around that starting position, he was absent. So maybe we would have seen something different. Who knows? But overall, I think going forward, especially in the first half, the Reggae Boyz needed a whole lot of work. And again, looking forward to the games to come. I expect there to be improvements there. Lively substitutions. And when I say lively substitutions, I'm talking specifically about Cephas and Kahim Dixon, who came on and we could see that there was an impetus. They wanted to do something. They wanted to show what they're about. And it's almost as if these players are hungry to show that, hey, I should be starting in this team. Cephas looked very lively down the flank. He was willing to take on players. He was willing to go by players as well. And I think especially in the latter parts of the game, he was one of those players who was willing to take a risk, willing to get around players and to get the ball in the box. So Ronaldo Cephas, every time I've seen him, he's looked better and better. And I think definitely he deserved a spot in that squad. And he is one of those players that are very, very close to the starting 11. My next pointer, the coach is seeing what we are seeing. Now, usually as fans, we, let me put it as simple as possible, cuss out the coaches. How comes the coach don't see this? How comes the coach don't see that? Because we, the fans, we're looking on and we're seeing where the blunders are being made. We're seeing where players are lacking. And then we're wondering why these coaches are, how come these coaches aren't seeing the same thing that we're seeing? I think last night was an exception because Coach McLaren, he saw what the fans were seeing. I think Casey Palmer, he started to fall off in the second half. The coach saw that. The coach hooked him. Tyreek McGee, lacking again in the first half. The coach saw that in the second half, pulled him as well, and we'll get to McGee in a second. But that was the case across most of the players last night who were substituted. And I think it's one of those seldom moments where players were substituted and we didn't hear backlash or we didn't see fans saying, how come this player was subbed, etc., etc. So Coach McLaren, he's seen what we're seeing, and that's that's evidence of a good coach, evidence of a coach who is paying attention to what's happening on the field and not paying attention to the names or to the personalities in the squad. In contrast, he's focusing on what the players are contributing to the team in the given moment, and he's making his changes accordingly. So hats off to Coach McLaren for that. And I think overall as a coaching performance, he did well last night. My next pointer, and this is my second to last pointer because the last pointer is outside football, but my second to last pointer, Tyreek McGee, he left us wanting last night. And I know Tyreek McGee over the years, he's been one of those talents that we, the Reggae Boyz fans, we've been begging for his inclusion. We've been lobbying the likes of Ryan LFC and the Military Goon and Coaches Desk. All these different YouTubers have been begging for McGee to be included in the squad. And Coach McLaren spoke about it as well in his press conference, where he said McGee is something special and we need something special in the team, especially in the midfield. So I think McGee last night was non-existent. In contrast to the first game that he played, where I think he excelled, I think last night was not it. And it's this level of inconsistency that I think has resulted in him being in and out of the team. McGee, he wasn't aware spatially, I think, and folks will say, oh, he wasn't getting the ball or whatnot. He wasn't running in space for the ball, in my opinion, because there are a number of occasions where I saw where he passed the ball and basically stood still, right? He wasn't going forward. He wasn't going to where those gaps presented themselves to collect the ball and to basically make things happen. So Tyreek McGee last night was one of the games for him to forget. And in general, because I can't pick out one player to say, okay, this player was exceptional or this player was a 9 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, I'll say it was just a bad outing overall. We mentioned Ronaldo Cephas a little bit earlier, saying these players are players who want to get into the squad. Let me mention as well Kahim Dixon, who has gotten better and better every time he's represented the Jamaican national team. and looking on at that youngster and seeing that hunger and seeing that desire to make things happen with the national team. I think that's what's showing. That's the difference between Kaheem Dixon and Tyreek McGee, because when things aren't going well for Tyreek McGee, we don't see him. In contrast with Kaheem Dixon, he always shows that heart, that 100% desire to make it happen or to turn things around, even when things aren't going well. But McGee, not one of his better nights, and I think all the YouTubers who were saying Tyreek McGee needs to start and Tyreek McGee needs to be in that starting 11, the narrative will change today for the next couple of weeks at least, and then we'll see something different after the next game. But Tyreek McGee, I think, big talent. We can't argue that, but the application and the delivery on the day and the consistency still needs working on. So I won't come out and say a player isn't good and a player doesn't deserve to be in the team. But what I will say is the team definitely needs to do some work, especially Mason Holgate, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, and Dr. G said he was nervous. As I said, we'll give him time. We'll give him time. Tried a couple long balls over the top to get it through to the forwards. Could be a situation where, again, the midfielders weren't presenting themselves, so he had to bypass the midfield, or it could very well be a situation where he wanted to leave his mark on the team. But my last pointer, because this is intending to be a quick snapshot of everything that transpired last night, my last pointer is the Jamaica Football Federation and the organizers for these games. They need to do better from a security perspective, because you're imploring on fans to come out and to support the national team, and you're imploring on fans to come out and give their 100% behind the Reggae Boyz, yet these fans can't feel secure being in the national stadium, knowing that their vehicles outside are being destroyed and vandalized, right? Over 15, I think the last count I had was 17 or 18 vehicles were broken into, and by broken into we mean smashed glasses, all of that, vehicles scratched, all of that. So I think from a security perspective, and these vehicles are vehicles that were on the national stadium property, right? They were in the national stadium parking lot. We can't have these things happening, because then fans are going to be turned off. They're going to be dismayed from coming to the national stadium to support the Reggae Boyz. So again, from a security perspective, the Jamaica Football Federation needs to put those measures in place, whether logistically or whatever, to ensure that when fans come out to the national stadium, they can watch the games in peace without worrying about their properties in the parking lot, because otherwise we won't have fans coming out. Big shout out to the fans who turned out last night as well. Although we had a lot of walkouts, based on my assessment, fans started leaving the stadium at roughly 78 minutes mark. I think by we got to 88 minutes, most of the fans had already left the national stadium. So that's also something that the Reggae Boyz need to take into account if you're not giving the fans what they want, because the full statistics at the end of the game was, I think Reggae Boyz had 4 shots, none on target. Honduras had like 16 shots or something like that, with maybe 6 or 7 on target. So again, the fans came out for a show. They didn't get a show. And if we are to encourage the fans to come out and to support the team, 1, we need to ensure that their properties are secured outside in the parking lot. And 2, the Reggae Boyz need to ensure that they give a performance. Last night, they didn't give a performance, and that's why most fans left the national stadium, 1, prematurely, and 2, disappointed. So that's my take on what happened last night at the national stadium. I'm curious to hear what your takeaways are, Halftime TV viewers and subscribers. Leave it down in the comment section below. Dr. G, big up yourself. Everyone who's on the live stream, big shout out. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Until next time, peace out. Reggae Boyz, better luck next time. I know we've advanced to the next round, but the performance in general was left wanting. And I know the fans will be expecting far, far better the next time the Reggae Boyz take to the national stadium. So we're with you 100%. We're just imploring the team to do better next time, because again, even if you don't get a goal on the day, we expect to see a performance, and last night we didn't see a performance any at all. So big up everybody. Thanks again for the continued support, and we look forward to another productive year, both supporting the Reggae Boyz and the track and field season that is to come next year. All right, so we're here live and direct. Football season this time. But you know how it is. Halftime TV is with you for all sports. So peace out. We'll talk soon.